So speaking of which, I came to know of you through your composing work on Final Space, which is just a supremely delightful show with
agreed
deep complexity. And I mean, it's one of those shows where when you first start watching it and you can kind of have preconceived ideas of where it's going, because it's funny, it's goofy, and man, it gets into some really heart-wrenching things.
Gary?
Gwen.
I'm sorry.
For what?
Not telling you sooner.
You can tell me when you come back.
Gary.
No, don't. Don't say it.
I'm not coming back.
Gwen.
We've lost the Earth, but I can still save you. Goodbye, Gary. I'll miss you.
Gwen!
But I think, for me personally, though the overall team did an outstanding job, every piece of it's written well, art is good, all of that.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there is something about the score work that gives it a more mature feeling or more depth to the situations. From my perspective, like that's really what kind of hooked me on it, is that piece of it.
I think one thing that Olin Routers, the creator of the show, one thing that he does so well, we were talking earlier about how, like, I wish there was a word for the like cinematic like moment of just awe. He does something magnificent where he can have humor, and it's funny and it's lighthearted, and he can take you down to the depths of hell of emotion and still make it palatable, and it's organic and it feels real, and like, he is so good at doing that with storytelling. He can go all over the place. And I think that was one of the big talks with the music was we did not want to go like cartoony, like synths and arpeggiators, and we're in space. Like, we were like, no, we are going like organic. We used a lot of like the staccatos as like just arpeggiators instead of using a synth one. Make it strings. So we were using a lot of those elements, but just in an organic way.
Yeah.
So it didn't sound, so it did feel serious. When you get to those scenes, you don't want it to be like, this is cheesy, or you want to feel it like as much as you can. That was always the goal.
Well, goal
and Olin led great with
achieved.
that. Olin was a huge part of like leading where the music needed to go.
Really?
Like, he has a sense for that. Olin's like a huge nerd when it comes to like orchestral music and like what works and what doesn't. He's actually very knowledgeable and easy to work with. So he knows what he wants. He knows the genre well. Yeah.
Well, and I was curious about that because, some projects it's a little bit more hands off, and some of them they're very involved in that kind of thing. He was
very involved. He had a big hand on the tone of the show. Yeah.
Which I can see. I mean, from what I've watched and some of the other, videos and stuff with him, he seems like he has a vision and knows where it's going,
Yeah. And he knows how to get there, and he knows how to get you there. That's what makes him a great leader.
Yes. Yeah. All the best ones are that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so how did that come about? I mean, how did you get hooked up with that team and just...
It's such a long story, but I'll make it brief if I can. I've been doing music for a long time on my own, and many, many years ago, when I first started producing music, this is the first song that I ever like produced and put out for people to listen to. And it was When the Darkness Comes. I wrote it inspired by the Maze Runner books at the time. The movies were about to come out. And long story short, I was on an MTV competition show for Maze Runner. I got hooked up with the director, with the composer. They wanted to use the song in the movie.
Never gonna break me, they're never gonna change us. This war's not flesh and bone, this war wages in us, and it burns like a fire, and it burns like a fire, and there's a voice inside my head, and it's telling me to be brave when the darkness comes.
And through a weird turn of events that did not happen.
Of course.
Of course, you know, it just, yeah, some things just don't go through and don't happen.
Right.
But that song blew up on the internet, and Olin found it, and he was like, I just did this pilot for this show called Final Space that I want to make a show, and it might actually happen, and if it does, will you move down here and compose the music for it? And I said, yeah. And
Hell
so I
yeah.
packed up and I moved to Nashville, and I worked in Olin's print shop. It used to be Olin Rogers Flying Out Star Cadet. So I was the assistant manager for the apparel company, and while I was doing the music for this, and it was that's literally how it happened. Literally, the internet is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a lot of connections and opportunities, right? So
I didn't know if I had the job. I just moved. I was like, there's a chance that I possibly could get the job.
Least you can do is level with me. What are my chances?
Not good.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
And I did. And then it was great.
And a lot of great things are like that, right? They're unknowns that you do have to take a chance on, because it's not, like we just said, it's not written in stone. Things can go haywire. A million different things can happen to make it where that didn't occur, and you weren't.
Exactly,
you
and it still did somehow. Yeah, for sure. When I moved down there, the first month that I was there, I didn't have a place. I was just sleeping on couches.
Right.
A married couple had a spare room for $400 on Craigslist. That's where I moved. They're great. I still talk to them this day. I love them. But yeah, I just literally had to both shoes in. Let's do this. Let's hope it works out. And it did. So
yeah.
Thankful for that.
Now, during that process, did you score to picture a lot, or was it more conceptual in nature, where he paints a picture of what's going to be going on, and then you just write some stuff and they edit it in?
We never had enough time to do something that wasn't to picture. Everything was to picture, because we didn't have the time to do it. And then you have those sync points that you want to line up when they fall, or that door opens, or there's one where Lil Cotto pulls up his gun and it goes you want those to line up. So everything to picture. So you got to know what you're working over. You
mentioned it being quick turnaround. So how long did you typically have to work on an episode?
So we were supposed to have a week, but it always ended up being 3 days somehow. So from the time that we got the episode, we would do a spotting session, with the showrunners and the director for that episode.
There's this adage in film scoring, one of those quotes that is really not attributed to anyone, but the quote is, spotting is scoring. Spotting is scoring. So what spotting is in film music is looking at your scene and deciding where you want music to go in, to come out, to change, to take a break, to pick up a different mood. And so when you go into a scene and you spot it effectively, you're able to break that down into smaller chunks. You're able to make sense of the scene and understand what you actually need to score rather than here's a movie, here's a long scene. When you have multiple changes, multiple hit points, different moods, when you mark those out in your session or in a notebook, you're able to better organize what you have to write music for. You can map it out, it's simpler, it's easier to approach, take it in smaller chunks. Again, I think it's one of those old adages of film music that is so essential and so key in order to really make a daunting task more enjoyable.
By the time we got notes and had to turn in, it was 3 or 4 days. That was it. And it's a lot of work to turn. I mean, when you're doing huge pieces and you've got 22 minutes of 17 cues and they all have sometimes up to 30 stems, like it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
I'm stressed just listening to you talk about it.
Yeah. And then like Thursdays would be submission day. So that's like a 16 to 20 hour process on my end. So a lot of times I would, wake up Friday morning at like 7 or be up till like Friday morning. And then that evening get the new episode. It was just so quick. Sometimes we had one day to do all, like it was that crazy at some points, but
yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And well, great job then, working in such tight constraints to be able to, because I mean, you would never ever guess that when you're listening to it, right? There never seems like corners are cut or anything. I mean, everything feels well thought out and appropriate,
Yeah, and Andrew Goodwin and Jake Sidwell, that they both were composers on the series as well. They did season 3 on their own. They were just great to work with. In terms of like being professional and like we're all on our team squad and like we're gonna get it done. Like, thanks to those guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always nice to have people to be able to bounce those ideas off of, and it did seem kind of like this small mighty team, making something happen. And those are always the coolest situations, I feel like.
And the thing is, like, I had never composed anything before.
Right. And that's kind of why I was wondering how it came about.
Jake and Andrew had. I was just like, literally, like, I've never told anyone this before, but so you have to make an AAF file. And that's with all the stems, all the music. It's a huge file. It's a huge pain in the butt to do. But that's how you have to submit the episode. And so we finished composing the first episode and they're like, all right, turn in the AAF tomorrow and we're good to go. I'm Googling, what is an AAF?
Hey, Jim, can I get a,
Hi.
Hi. I need a rundown of your clients. Can you get that to me?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
What the hell is a rundown? When did you need that rundown by?
As soon as possible.
Okay.
Just get it right.
Yeah, gotcha. Of course. I'm gonna dive in to the rundown. I'll be exhausted because it's like a triathlon. Did you want to close this?
You started on that rundown yet?
Oh, this is just something I'm taking a break with. Oh, all right, we'll get back to the rundown. Right now?
Okay, great.
Hey, you know what? Do you have a rundown that I could take a look at just so I know what rundown you're looking for?
Just keep it simple.
Keeping it simple, that's what I'm doing. But I am working hard on this one, real hard.
You're working hard on this?
No, not too hard, not harder than I should.
Right. I mean, why work harder than you should?
Like literally Googled it, figured it out. They never knew that I didn't know what I was doing. Just literally fake it till you freaking make it. And when I figured out how to do it right, I wrote a 2-page like spec sheet for me to follow every time that I did it, so it was correct. But I was literally, what is an A, like Googling things the first week of the job. It's very stressful. I'm like, sure, yeah, thanks, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
What is an AAF? And it's not easy. It's a complicated, like you need to go to school to learn how to do this at least. Like, No, I had never composed anything. This was literally trial by fire. I'm amazed that it turned out like it did. I think it was a lightning in a bottle kind of situation. Yeah. And that worked out. I figured out what I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you know, you are a talented individual, and you have that piece, right? So that is kind of the thing that a lot of people would struggle with. So the other thing is just kind of figuring out how to put the puzzle pieces in place, right? So
I feel like I'm self-taught everything. I've never taken a course to learn any of this. So awesome. So, you know, it's like, really, you have to have the attitude of, I'm going to try this over and over again and figure it out until it's right. And that's the only way you learn these things.
Yeah.
It's trial by fire. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, I'm self-taught, but I have 3 older brothers, come from a family of musicians. And like my oldest brother went to the Guitar Institute of Technology. Back in the day, this is back with like Paul Gilbert from Racer X and like all those old guitar gods and stuff. And so I had him in my corner, but I was in Texas and he was in California. So I would pick up what I could, and then 2 brothers in between. So I kind of learned from them most, but it was so funny because everything I did was just from ear and from feeling, right? I go off of feeling so much, and he would come in and just be like, you know, try to get me to work on these scales and understand this theory
I am not
and
that
that.
brain. I'm
no,
not
me
that brain.
either. He's like, why'd you go there? I'm like, because it sounds cool. Like, what do you mean?
No, my boyfriend is like an insanely wicked, amazing guitarist. Like, he builds guitars, like he's a jack of all trades. And like, he understands all of that stuff brilliantly, as if he went to Berkeley, and I'll be working on something and he'll like nitpick me or make fun of me because I don't know what I'm doing and he does. And like when it comes to scales and things like that, he'll always like outsmart me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't. It's all ear.
Trying to convey my emotions here.
Yeah, I'm trying to like connect with myself.